Moo and good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. I am Sean Fogenberg, and with me we've got John Keenan. What are you drinking?
I renewed my card in the Mushroom Beverage Club. I
Yes.
saw this at the store yesterday and I thought, oh, that's that mushroom thing. And then I noticed the name is Alive, which is perhaps even more disconcerting that maybe the mushrooms still are alive when I'm eating them.
Yeah, have you seen The Last of Us?
No,
Well, I'm
maybe
I'm
I
hoping
shouldn't.
I'm hoping they're not that alive.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, and you're still alive after the last one, so it
After the
works.
last one, yeah. This one's got ginger and turmeric. I actually like the flavor on this one better than the root beer. But
Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
go
so that
mushrooms.
was that was Steph. You heard Steph. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Sprite.
Great. And Chris Greenland, what are you drinking?
oh, so many things. I'm almost done with a Aurora Hopialis from Carl Strauss. I've got a Guinness poured ready to go in the background here. And it's like kicking off Memorial Day weekend here in the States. So like the unofficial start of summer, but it is 60 degrees and it's spitting rain outside. So just coming in from an outside ride, not drinking Miller Lite, not drinking tequila, not drinking rum. I do have some scotch to empathize with you people who did Muckle Yin earlier or set to do it later on.
Yeah, I'm somewhere in between the scotch and the tequila. I've got a La Luna Mezcal Artesanal.
Yeah.
So smoky tequila, 92
You just
proof.
ripping shots or what do you, yeah, neat pours. Perfect. Copita.
Um, all right, so I think that we had at least one, maybe two of you rode the HSRL this like race one.
I did race one.
Steph, did you also get in race one?
No, I did a lot of race, so
Okay.
I don't
Yes.
I
So,
don't recommend it.
uh,
0 stars.
great. Uh, we are on the Muckle Yin, which is basically every road in Scotland in both directions. Well, not every road in both directions, but you do Breakaway Bray Reverse, Sker Summit North, Breakaway Bray, Sker Summit South, Clyde Kicker, Champion Sprint, and it is 2 laps. So in
yeah.
total, it ends up being about 47, 48K, with probably 600 meters of climbing. Uh, John, how did it go? How did it feel? How do you feel now?
I was excited to do it because I haven't really raced too many of the longer races. It's probably one of the longer races I've ever done. And I enjoyed it. It was a good race. I did learn to really hate the corkscrew because I think you go over it 17 times somehow in this course. Like every time you finish a section, you're like going up the corkscrew or going up the backside of the corkscrew. And you're like, how did I get here? This doesn't make any sense. And there's always somebody who's like pushing it, like, oh, I'm going to break, this little band of 5 people. I'm going to spit one out the back. And so you got to chase. And that got a little old after the 16th time or something.
Yeah, and
But
I'm not sure that people realize that in HSRL, it's better to have more people in your group.
yeah, yeah. We had a guy take off very early. I mean, we got split up. We dropped half the group in 2.5K. Like, so, there's this, you go out of the gates and you hit the sprint right away. So everybody's just all in. And somehow we broke it up right away. And then by kilometer 5, I got spit out the back when we were going up the breakaway Bray. So I raced most of it with a small group of like 4 to 5 people. And yeah, we would occasionally, somebody would tear off the front thinking, oh, I'm going to chase and catch the group in front of me. And 5, 6 minutes later, they got caught again. And
So, what were the numbers like?
we had a 20, I want to say 22 in race. what ended up finishing is in the C's 15 finished on Zwift
Okay.
Power.
It's decent numbers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but it was still really split up. I guess there was a pretty good sized group at the front, 123. There were 5 or 6 people in the front.
Looks like 17 finishers in B as well. So yeah, decent numbers.
Yeah.
It does look like time-wise it was a pretty long race. So the front of C, I guess you got to take 5 minutes off for this, but looks like front of C took about an hour 18.
Yeah, sounds about.
And then front of B took an hour 11. Meaning did the B's catch? Looks like they would have caught.
Yeah, they caught going up the one of the many breakaway. No, yeah, it was breakaway Bray. There's a pretty good sized group going up breakaway Bray when I got caught by them.
And then the D's. This is a long race for D. So
Yeah.
only four finishers.
Yeah.
So hour 35 to an hour 50. So that's a nice long session.
Commitment.
Yeah. But like John said, there is something interesting, nice, fun about doing these longer races. Especially I feel like this is in Herd Summer Racing in particular, like it's nice to get a couple of these, dumb long ones with like 12 segments and challenge yourself. I feel like some of the we've done Surrey Hills and things where it's, a bunch of climbs. This one at least mostly flat or mostly rolling.
Just ticking through the results here from race one, I'm noticing in the A category, I noticed Matthew Derry's name and I was like, oh wow, he's an A now because I remember riding with him with the C's. But no, he's a C.
Yeah, so it looks like
So there
I
are
think
three
I think it's-
ATP riders that are C category that entered A cat.
Yeah,
And-
I noticed that with Fogelberg, who also used to race with the herd in a race last week. I think that because the A numbers are low enough, they've been jumping into the A races and just rolling around and hitting the segments hard and hoping they get good placement in the I don't know if this is to up their Zwift racing rating or their Zwift power rating, but I do think that it is about getting better rating.
Huh, that's interesting. Rating farming is one thing. I just want to make sure there wasn't like anything funky about being, well, there wouldn't be, right? Because the A's would go off last.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all good. Carry on.
But I mean, it looks like the three of them just kind of rolled around 15 to 20 minutes behind the rest of the A's by the end. So
Yeah.
yeah, I might check it. Derry used to race on a team with me, so I might check in with them and just be like, hey, what's this plan? Should I jump in with you guys in the A's?
Yeah, that's maybe there's something there. That's fun.
Gaining the system, getting a podium, GC plays in the A's.
Yeah. Yeah, so anything else, John, about the course?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I guess the one thing about doing it 2 laps, you get a little bit of like practice for the sprints, like where you're gonna wind it up and all that, which hopefully everybody kind of knows, but I always feel like it's good to sort of try out one thing the first time and then see if it's any different the second time. I haven't looked at the stats yet, but the climb's probably not as much because you just got to put out the the watts, although I was surprised how fast we were going up the Sker Summit north. It seemed like the kilometers per hour was faster than I remember it, but
The north being the gravel side.
the gravel side, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that has sped up since they changed the rolling resistance on the gravel.
Yeah.
Because it is, I mean, it's only 3% on average. So I think that it used to be slow just because the gravel was slow, not because it's an especially difficult climb.
Hmm. I mean, there's a couple of segments in there that are.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
There's some tougher section in there, but
Mhm.
What did you ride?
I took a Pinktron.
I think that's
I think you could go full aero, but yeah.
I think I'm likely to grab the Tron as well. Yeah, I think this ends up being kind of a similar version to riding like 4 or 5, what would that be, 5 laps of Yorkshire, just kind of up and down.
Mhm.
Even the like there's some short efforts with yeah. Um, do you feel like the breakaway brays and the kicker uh, are do you need to wind those up beforehand, or are they long enough that you get a good time by just going hard once you get to the line?
Like the breakaway bray, you can get up a good speed. It's just got that little bump first, and then you don't really have to get out of the saddle until that second pitch. I have not figured out the breakaway bray. It confuses me every time I go up it because it's mostly flat and then there's a little 3%, and then it flattens out, then there's a little bit steeper, and then you just kind of crest over the top. But I've never felt like I've really gotten any rhythm in it.
I think the best ones that I've done on that have been in ZRL, and so it's kind of hard to equate those to what you should do in HSRL because
You're hanging on.
you're well, and for those it was something where I knew that I was good for that time period and I could just like hang out at the back and sprint into the group
Mm.
and like get some extra speed and um because that's the way you get a good time on that. But I don't know if that's necessarily true for this. Um, it's the
yeah,
kind of thing where you're kind of racing your group on this. Cool. Let's move on to Herd Beginner Racing. So Herd Beginner Racing is our weekly D category racing series. This week we will be on RGV.
no, it
Oh,
appears to be TikTok, according to a post on what's on Zwift Power. I think
Hmm.
something went wrong with the schedule, but
okay.
Nathan put up a post, and it's also on the Zwift Power events. It's on TikTok. It
Okay.
seems
How many laps? Just the
one.
one?
I think that's enough for these. But yeah, it's the classic route, TikTok, where you go to desert, Call of Saddle Springs, through the water tunnels, back into the desert, finish at the Flake flat sprint. I think Steve said it like there are a couple of points. You have the Calder Saddle Springs, 4% riser. Then you have the small kicker out of the water tunnels, and then directly followed by a semi-dirt climb back up to the desert. Probably you won't break people there, but you can drop people there for sure. although I tried it on the water tunnels back when I was a D, because I'm like a semi-decent sprinter, so I tried to full send it out of the water tunnels and see if I could break people there. Didn't work entirely, but yeah, I think it's mainly watch out on those segments to keep the power on, to don't get dropped, and maybe try something later if you don't have a sprint. I know I've seen people do it like just in front of the sprint, anticipate it, like going like a Steve Pritchard panache attack at 1K to go if you don't have a sprint. Otherwise, just sit in and wait for the sprint. Also, it's a longer sprint, so yeah, see what segment is, I think 500 meters, but see where you think you how much you can go, or when the group goes, you have to go as well. But depends on how long you can hold it. If you can go with 300 meters to go or 200, depends.
Yeah. Aero bike.
Yeah, most aero thing you got. Think yeah, if there are newer people, Nate and Tractor, who organizes these events, always puts up a post on both Facebook pages, the Herd and the Herd Racing League, with some suggestions about setups with which bikes and which wheel sets.
That brings us to our weekly segment climbing series, the Herd Climbers Gambit. Chris, what are we on this week?
Yeah, this week in the Herd of Climbers Gambits, we're finishing our series with the Alp, which, I mean, if you haven't done it by this point, now's your chance to do it in a competitive event. If you have done it and just want to remember why you don't do it every day, come on out. I put the stats in the preview post, but it's something like, what, 12K, averaging
8.5.
8.5%. So yeah, just kind of tuck in. I mean, people climb this differently, right? I mean, some people definitely race it and push harder at the bottom and then kind of like hang on coming out of the red. I just kind of steady state it and use what I've got left as we get towards the top. Either way, it's terrible. But come on out, have fun, spend an hour with us.
Yeah, so we will often talk about the potential for doing the double, where you do Climbers Gambit and then HSRL. That is not a possibility this week.
Gonna be tough this week, yeah.
Yeah. But it does make for an interesting weekend of like the two hardest HSRL and Climbers Gambits are this week. So I'm probably going to do HSRL today and then leave Climbers Gambit for Sunday. But I think that's a good combo of, like, hour and a half points race and then a full hour plus effort, like steady state effort to finish off the weekend. It'll be interesting. I haven't done an all-out effort on the Alp in a while, and I kind of doubt I'll be able to break the hour this time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't climbed the Alp in any sort of effort in a while, so it'll be good to get back on there, and I am intending to do this one. The Alp has a special place in my heart. That's where I earned my Tron.
Oh, is it?
So yeah,
Nice.
somewhere shortly after Dutch Corner in the big like snow walls is where I earned it, and hopped on it, immediately sent it to Pink just to F with Brian O'Connor, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So come on out.
Well, you've convinced me. I've missed most of the Climbers Gambit this season for travel reasons, but maybe I'll do this one on Sunday.
Sure. Yeah. bring your mushroom drink.
Yeah.
See you at the top.
All right. So moving on to herd of mountain goats. It looks like, and as always, we
Surrey
can't
Hills again?
we can't be certain, but on our schedule, it does say Surrey Hills.
Shocker.
Which it was last week, which was on the schedule I ran, but yeah, it is what it is.
So let's just say it'll be Lorraine, Surrey Hills, or Octogon, and we aren't really sure which will actually be.
What's the line at Vegas have? Which route is it going to end up being? What
It's
does
a
the
great
house say?
question.
we should really start betting on this.
All right. So this week's Stampede, the weekly time trial series, is on Tempest Fugit, and what's the distance on this one? 19K. So that's the full. Yeah, I guess that's the point of this is it's the full laps. So Tempest Fugit ends up being 19.7 or so. But it's likely to be the fastest, longer time trial because in that 19K you only have 16 meters of climbing. So yeah, just go as fast as you can for a little over 30 minutes for C's. It's probably about the so
Yeah.
40 kph it would put you at 29-ish minutes, 28. So I'm sure you can assess your speed based or your power based on that. Yeah. And then the final race of the week is going to be Bullseye, the weekly points racing kind of sprint point racing series on Classique. There are 4 laps, 5 sprints. The sprint is the mall sprint, the downhill mall sprint. So the one where you come around the hairpin and then do that like final kilometer. That you kind of go around the roundabout into the downhill sprint.
Yeah, to the arch, and then indeed on the downhill in the mall.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So because there's hairpins on both sides, so
That's
it's the
true.
hairpin,
So it's
not
not
on the right roads.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I was confused there for a second. Shocker.
Yeah. Well, this is what happens when you are off of Zwift completely for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like we have the next set of HSRL planned. So don't know what next week will be. But next week's also I'm not sure what next week's herd beginner racing will be if next week's scheduled race is actually this week. So we'll see.
Marjolein will probably put up a post about the new series if there is the next one in the upcoming week, probably.
Great.
No
pretty good about
secret
that.
intelligence on that.
So let's move on to Around the Horn. So just this week, there were some leaks. I guess earlier, about a month ago, they did the this season on Zwift and announced some of the things that are coming up, which included the grade, among some other things. But just in the last couple of days, there have been some screenshots they've put out which detail what the new routes might look like. And it looks like it's not just going to be the road up the mountain. So the grade itself is going to be a climb that goes from the newer coast roads, that little kind of Mediterranean Spanish looking city along the coast, that they call Ciudad La Cumbre. So from
Ooh.
there up to the Epic KOM, which is something like 8K at, will that be 5% or so?
Yeah, potentially.
Oh, go ahead.
But yeah, I was about to say potentially because we don't know if it goes maybe straight away up from the city. Maybe there's a flatter section, and because you have a straight line, and then on the schedule you see some hairpins. Maybe at hairpins it starts up, but they said it would be used for FTP, potentially scanning your FTP. So it would have to be some longer climb at least.
Yeah. So the way that I've read this was that this course was planned, or this route is essentially planned as an FTP test route, and that it is the first half of it that will really get the FTP test done. So it'll be a very steady gradient, with no changes in the gradient, and it seems like very little changes in the route. It's just kind of goes straight up. And then I think that's the only part that's going to be needed to be able to get an FTP estimate, that they're, I guess, basing off of a bunch of data analysis from, a lot of data that they have for people's test efforts. But then it looks like some switchbacks, and then you get to the top.
Yeah,
it will meet the
somewhere before the tunnels. The tunnel, I think. If I've seen the posts because Eric Schlang of Swift Insider tried to put the maps, or which were on the screenshots, to fit it on the current map, and I think it's somewhere right before the tunnel of despair, or how we call it, that last section of Epic KOM. You tend, at least for a CRD, is where you usually end up setting your 20-minute powers anyway. So it's
an interesting
it's like
choice.
dead straight, huh?
Yeah, it looks dead straight, and if it's like a 6% constant grade, I think it really highlights how different people use Zwift differently. And I'm reminded of, before I raced, I would never do a ride in Richmond because it was the most boring thing I could imagine. And when I started racing, I found Richmond really interesting because there's 2 little hills and a longer climb, and you got a sprint in there, and it's a very different course when you look at it from a different perspective. So I think this is the same kind of thing. Like, I can't imagine riding a dead straight road with a 6% constant grade that doesn't change at all, unless I want to do an FTP test, and then that sounds fine. But yeah,
nobody wants to do an FTP test.
Yeah, right.
But it'd be interesting, like between whatever Zwift sanctioned monthly series, and then I'm sure they're going to force people on this for ZRL. I think they're gonna like kind of force the racing community to be honest about what their efforts are and like essentially get everybody sorted correctly. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it looks like you have that climb, which we at the first initial we thought that was it, but there seems to be like with for instance somebody in one of the groups said something like Petit KOM and Van Top. There seems to be an alternative route. I don't know if it's going to be flat, but somewhere from I think it's looking at it's going to be somewhere between where you enter the coast roads on the jungle circuit and that first sprint to Stone Arch. I think somewhere between there it cuts across to the, and I think it's probably, if that straightaway, like you said, is part of the climb, it's that connects just before the switchback, so it's going to be uphill anyways a bit.
So it'll definitely be, so there's one route here called the Coastal Crown Loop, which is 15K, 185 meters of climbing. But most of that, like there's going to be a decent amount of that, like 15, 20, 30 meters that are along that coast road.
Yeah.
Because the coast road does roll. But the rest of that will be from that bypass, essentially.
Yeah.
It'll be a more shallow entrance, right? So it'll be an uphill, but it won't be, a climb proper.
Yeah.
So I think it'll kind of be, yeah, kind of like the bypass is my guess. Maybe a little steeper, like a 2% maybe average on that bypass road or that other entrance to the climb, but it definitely does get you from basically sea level up to halfway up the climb. So yeah, that should be also an interesting addition. I'm interested in seeing what these new routes look like. I personally have really liked the Coast Road edition. I liked the visuals of a lot. And so I hope that they're keeping some of that similar vibe along these new roads.
Let's assume that there's a polka dot banner at the top of this, right?
Yeah.
If
assume that the grade is going to be because it has a connector to Epic KOM, but if you look at the pic with the graph, it seems to be that pure the grade climb or the climb no or something. How is it called? It has a bit of a loop at the end, so it's going to be.
Yeah.
I assume it's going to have a KOM segment for it. But essentially, but essentially, if you want to be masochistic, you can do Epic KOM technically from 4 sides now if you can. the 2 you have, and then the grade plus the final section of Epic KOM through the tunnels and then the rollers, and then that bypass section coming from the other way. If you want to do some basically a climbing section and don't want to do the same climb, well, technically you have to do the grade 2 times, and that's tunnel and roller section 3 times if you want to do it from all sides, but you can do it.
Yeah, I like where your head's at, Steph, because that's where I was thinking with this. Like, if our man Jimbo's doing his job, then there's multiple ways to attack this. And it's not like, yeah, you can climb Epic from 4 different ways, but there's only 2 official KOM segments in that,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
got to hit the correct start line and you got to hit the finish line. God forbid you turn right and go up the radio tower before you proceed straight on and hit the reverse finish line. Hopefully there are multiple start lines and multiple hill climbs that are taking place and utilizing this KOM banner, maybe. I don't know. It'd be cool to like have a third way up epic that actually counts. And then
yeah,
have like a sub climb as part of that being the grade. And then
yeah.
a third way using a bypass road. Like it'd just be cool to have additional hills to use.
It seems like an easy addition to just make the radio tower a segment too, right? Just put a start
No,
banner.
nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. No,
Nope.
they just want to not go up the radio tower.
Yeah, James has definitely wanted a little roundabout at the bottom of the radio tower.
Give you that option on your play controller. Nope, not going up there.
Yeah. I think the most masochistic version of doing the epic will now be just my assumption based on if we assume that there's a segment for the grade itself, that suggests that you will likely be able to start around that bypass road, do the bypass, the top of the grade, and then turn left and go to the top of epic and have no segments count. So do a no segment epic KOM.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There'll be a
Seems
spawn point at the top of the FTP test part of it, or the spawn points down on the coast road somewhere. That's what the part I can't figure out is.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it looks like that route is going to be a part of Liff Heights. So there is that one will probably be you start at the jungle pens, come
Yeah.
down the jungle, and then head toward the coast roads, and then rather than doing the coast, you cut across, go up the grade across the top of Epic,
Okay.
go down the Epic descent, and rather than going back down to Watopia, you turn left and go back into the jungle.
yeah,
That's
I'm
fun.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
That seems like it could be a fun or interesting, at least, race course.
Yeah. 2 laps of that. Let's go.
Cool. There were some other things that have been announced. So in this season on Zwift stuff, there was an announcement of something that I'm pretty excited about, which is the new updated HUD, essentially the new UI. I have always felt like the UI in Zwift was pretty subpar. The little map and not have, in particular, I think the part that's really frustrating is the
profile map.
route. Yeah, the route profile always just bouncing around because it doesn't know what route you're actually doing. And so it assumes what you're doing and then so you'll be riding along and you're riding along in France and it shows the whole of Ventop, even though you're on RGV or whatever. It looks like that will potentially be solved. I think that the route will now just show the route profile.
Yeah.
Hopefully just going in one direction and not changing left to right, depending on where you're going.
In addition, when you're on a climb, it looks like you will have a a climb profile in the like dead center below the top bar. And
I-
along in the little part on the top left, you can configure which pieces of information you want to show, and will be able to choose average power. So you can actually, you know, kind of like if you ride with um, I ride with my Garmin, and record on my Garmin and in Zwift. But it's nice to be able to say, okay, for this full ride, my average power has been whatever. It it the potential downside of this is that giving sandbaggers an extra piece of information that they can use to keep their power below a certain target. But the upside, I think, is that we're no longer really using 20-minute power as the one piece of categorization. So potentially won't be the thing that would be really nice is to be able to have lap power. So that
Yeah, yeah, I was about to say average power is good, but if you're doing like an effort or you want to do like things like you mentioned on your Garmin, you can click the lap button and have also your lap average power if you want to do an effort, not while not being in a workout, but just like you want to do a climb and you want to still measure, like I don't know, do epic and you want to keep at a certain power to have that average would be nice.
Oh,
But
that makes sense. I was just going to ask what the advantage of or why you would dual record on your Garmin, but is that it? If you want to do
yeah, I
like
mean that's one of them for
okay.
me. So I do it because I'm a weird person who likes having very specific way of keeping my data. So when I do races or something, I like having the full ride in my data analysis software, like in intervals.icu or in Golden Cheetah. I like the full ride to be there rather than the warm up, the race, the cool down, all separate. Um,
uh, I now I see what you mean by that.
so I will do the ride and have, I just start recording at the beginning of my ride and stop at the end of my ride, and then I have, a 3-hour ride rather than a 30-minute warm up and an hour and a half long race and then an hour cool down or whatever it is.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And I know I've heard it from people, yeah, and that gets maybe in that sandbaggy territory to use it, especially in ZRL to not dual record it, but have it on to see that to have that average. But now with the implementation of the average power, you have it on Zwift, but to use it for your 20 minutes to calculate it if you're not for things like ZRL, you don't go over the threshold, which gets you
And I mean,
disqualified.
if we're going to be honest about it, like the people who are really interested in being able to game the system still have the ability to use Sauce for Zwift, which gives you
Yeah,
much more specific data anyway.
yeah,
So if it was about 20-minute power, you can have, here's what my
yeah,
best 20-minute power is. You can do lap stuff. You can,
yeah,
um, but this is just nice. I do think that
yeah,
eventually it would be nice for them to add the ability to do laps because and in particular for things like Climber's Gambit, or for uh Stampede, these types of Stampede might work because you can, like, average power will be from the beginning of the race.
yeah,
um but for Climber's Gambit, it's or for anything where you have a longer climb during a race and you want to race that to power, well, there's one way of doing it that's like you're just looking at what my instantaneous power is and try and get that as close to your target as possible. But that doesn't really give you an estimate of like how close have I been over the course of the climb? Am I doing a
Yeah.
good job of hitting my target? And it would be nice to have that available.
But yeah, in either way, the improvement looks very promising with the addition of the route profile, so you can actually see, because I know that does exist also on Source. I've seen so many with watching videos, so many Source huts, and some of them are just bonkers. You almost don't see your character, but it looks good. Yeah, the profile, the climber's profile looks also good with the color coding they use for, which I assume they use from the climbing portals, where it gives you the blue is from, I don't know, 2 to 4%, say is just saying something, and that's changeability in which like you do with a head unit, you tend to also to put specific data fields on it for what you need in a ride. So you can change it if you want to for race or for workout or whatever what fits your bill, and it's nice. You can. It's only like, I think it's only 4 fields, and I think there are like only 5 or 6 options. So it's not the be and end all, but it's not that customizable. But you have some customizability anyway. So it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I like the climb mode feels like they've almost mimicked like what our head units do outdoors and brought that inside. So that's really nice.
It's
As much as it needed to be updated, just for usability and sanity, I am gonna miss like the old routing, especially in like New York, where you're taking all the bypass roads. It was like a Scooby-Doo hallway chase scene, like just zipping across the scene, and then maybe the ghost is chasing you, and then you're carrying a raccoon. It was like I don't know where I am, but I'm loving this. The
Where you
chaos.
you get on a new road and it shows you basically 100 meters of
Yeah, just zip.
of gradient in front of you, and then you're like, yeah, you're going this way, and now you're going, where are we on this map? Yeah.
Where are we? I would have gotten away with it if not for you meddling kids. Oh well.
Yeah, but yeah, basically that climbing profile, it's basically something along the lines of same like Climb Pro, which you have on certain Garmin head units. But yeah, the route profile is sometimes weird to ride in, like you said, on France or Innsbruck. You do a route and you have the like Van Top or the Innsbruck KOM.
Yeah.
Looming. Yeah. But yeah,
zero intent of going up there.
It looks good. It looks more modern than what they've got now.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, it'll make the game look and feel better, I think. And that's not something you can always say about things that Zwift does. So something to be excited about. And I guess the last thing we should maybe talk about is there's going to be one more ZRL series. So over the summer, there's going to be a 4-week ZRL Summer Showdown. And rather than teams of 6, we're going to have teams of 4 racing each week. So 4 routes, a team time trial on turf and surf, a points race on Libby Hill After Party, which we've all done fairly recently. I think that was in the No Spring Chickens.
Yeah.
A scratch race on a new route. I will be interested to see whether that is one of the routes that we just talked about.
I I think so.
Straight up
So
the grade. Straight up the
yeah,
grade.
it's gonna include the grade you mentioned. I was
Yeah.
about to say it, but it's gonna be because there are a couple of routes. Maybe it's that it could be still that coast that smaller one, the 15K with 180 meters of elevation. But looking at the other races, I assume it's gonna be. There were a couple of with 25 kilometers with couple of 100 meters of elevation. So I assume it's going to be one of those. Looking at the rest of the routes they are proposing for the summer showdown, but it's going to be fun. But I assume it's going to be one where you climb the grade. Just my gut feelings. It's somehow.
Yeah, the thing that I mean, it does say exclusive route, so they have had like exclusive modes for ZRL as well, like being able to do the reverse what's the reverse Glasgow crit in ZRL this what was that like a month ago was
Yeah.
was a new and exclusive route as well. So yeah, well, I mean,
I know what's going to be. It's going to be the great epic KOM with the bypass of the radio tower finish at the radio tower.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love
exactly
it.
what I was thinking.
So, Sean, what's the race organization? Is it teams that were in the last ZRL are going to be in this ZRL, or do you have to sign up all new teams?
So it has been going through the people who have already. So the way that at least America's Seas have been doing this is we got together all of the America's like we just checked in with the riders from our teams about who would be interested. And then have been kind of conglomerating across those teams to build a team, because it's kind of hard to get a bunch of people who are interested in a like 4-week summer series. But if you are, I guess I would say if you are interested, get in touch with either somebody who has been a captain that you have raced with before, or just maybe put a post up on the Facebook page if you are looking for a team that you would like to ride with.
Yeah, I think Nathan tracked up with something up already for America for I think the D's. And for us, it was just my current, or which I raced, finished the season with my C team. Basically, the captain put up a poster. The majority is from from the team we did the regular ZRL, but there are some returning or some other people from other teams, maybe in addition. So we kept our team, but
and then it looks like the fourth race is going to be a points race on Innsbruck KOM after party. So the points races are both on those after party routes where you gotta blow yourself up sprinting first. And Innsbruck KOM after party is going to be real tough because it's got the leg snapper and the sprint.
And how many laps? 3?
I think that one's 3 laps, and then you have to do
and then the
Innsbruck forward climb.
Innsbruck
that's gonna be I have a fear, because I was calculating that, because usually, because I'm in Central European time with my current team, I usually start around 8ish. So I think that's gonna be probably the longest route, depending on which week 3 gonna be for me. I think it's easily gonna be an hour, 50 minutes to an hour 30, I assume, because that climb takes about 30 minutes, and I think 3 laps of Innsbruck Ring is going to be
45,
somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour. So that's going to be a long one, and especially ending with like you said, doing basically 3 leg snappers, 3 sprints, and then a third or whatever, a 15 to 30 minutes to 40 minutes climb maybe for the Ds. That's gonna be a brutal one to finish it off.
So I remember doing this in ZRL before the leg snapper was a segment.
Yeah.
And you still race it hard in order to get into the right group and then make it hurt for the people behind, any of that. And I got a bunch of points on those sprints, and then I did like one of the slowest climbs I can remember. So I can only imagine how bad it'll be while also racing the leg snapper for time.
This one sounds like it's inspiring me to create a new race format of like the tag team. Like I'm going to do one lap, I'll tag my partner. They're going to do the next lap. Like you got a 4-person team, and then you got the anchor leg going up to Innsbruck KOM.
Love it.
Really race.
Yeah, like that.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
The video game seems like it could be done.
And like you said, week 3 is gonna be, I think it's 5 laps or of the Fan Flats, I think, and then finishing up Libby. Yeah, basically, because like you have four people. Our current team is about 8 people, so probably each rider gets 2 races. And we said, oh, we have some big, heavier raw wattage guys. Okay, the foremost with the biggest biggest raw power. Those are doing the TTT probably, just maximizing it that way. Yeah,
And the
it's gonna
scoring
be.
is like the ZRL where your team scoring again.
Yeah, I think so. So I think it's the same scoring as ZRL.
Okay. Sounds fun.
Cool. All right. Anything else? All right.
No.
With that, I guess have a good week of racing, and we'll see you next week.
You know.